to the August 20th meeting of the City of Vista Planning Commission. As you can tell, we have some audio-visual problems tonight. The rest of the commissioners' mics work, the chairman's doesn't. So we're going to go old school tonight, a raise of hands to request to speak and for our voting. And we will we'll get through this as quick as we can, and with everybody's patience, we'll make it through tonight. First item on our agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. Would you please stand and join us? And Commissioner Garrison will lead us. Thank you. Roll call, Ms. Principe.
Chair Rossler, let the record reflect that all commissioners and student commissioners are present.
Speaking of that, we have a new student commissioner tonight. Alexis, welcome. One of the things that you'll need to do, both of you, you and Gabby, will need to do is be proactive. I get involved in running a public hearing and getting to a vote. And if you have something that you want to contribute, we're more than happy to hear from you. Raise your hand, let me know you want to speak, okay? So if I don't check in with you at the, usually at the end of the hearing is when I'll do that. So, but let me know, okay? Commissioners, before you are the minutes from our last meeting, the August 6th meeting. If there are no changes, can we hear a motion to approve? Commissioner Kramer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If any of the commissioners don't have any changes, I vote that we accept the minutes as written.
Do we have a second? Commissioner Garrison. Commissioner Garrison seconds. So it's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes from August 6th. Please raise your hand. And it's unanimous. Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is changes to the agenda. Ms. Chow, any changes? Okay. No changes to the agenda. All right. Oral communications is next. This is a time when the commission sets aside to hear from members of the public on items that are not on the agenda. I have no speaker slips tonight. Is there anyone that wishes to address the commission? All right, if not, we will move on. You will need, if you want to address the commission tonight, you will need to fill out a speaker slip and turn it into our secretary, and she'll make sure I get it. Our next item then, moving on to our public hearings. The first item is the special use permit for Oriental Natural Treatment. Rafi, are you ready for your staff report? Very good.
My apologies. Good evening, Commissioners, Chairman Rossler, staff, members of the public. Bring forward to you today renewal for a special use permit already existing. The proposed project is for a special use permit renewal. The request is coming from the applicant, and this is for a massage establishment located at 1976 Hacienda Drive. This is the one-year review pursuant to Code Section Vista Municipal Code 18.40.020, Section B. Applicant is required to return annually for special use permit renewal upon expiration. The special use permit was previously approved by the Planning Commission on May 15th, 2018. The massage establishment continues to comply with the conditions of approval set forth back then. The city has received no code enforcement violations or sheriff's department complaints over the past year. Staff's recommendation at this time is to adopt the resolution approving the special use permit for renewal for the existing massage establishment at 1976 Hacienda Drive for a one-year extension. And that concludes staff's report. If you have any questions, I can answer any questions, and the applicant is here too.
Any questions of staff? None? Any question? Is the applicant just here to answer questions, or do they have
If you
a
have any
public hearing?
questions, yeah.
Okay. Very good. So we've had our staff report. The applicant is here for questions. Any questions from the commission on the item? I had one that I discussed with staff earlier. Commissioner Grimm?
Yeah, I just wondered if, it said in the staff report that the sheriff's office had no calls on this. Had there been any complaints from neighboring businesses?
No, not at this time. No code enforcement issues, no complaints from any neighbors or other tenants in that shopping center.
The special use permit, according to the staff, is $7,000, and they have to come back annually. So staff is looking at a way to maybe make that less painful and still get a review. If they continue to be good citizens and no problems, then we'll see if we can't help them out in that process so it's not as expensive. So, all right. Having said that, Commissioner Kramer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I had a discussion today with Patsy, and Patsy may have shared that discussion with Rafi, but I wanted to make Mr. Romero.
I think he's the applicant for the church.
Oh, sorry. I wanted to make sure that that the applicant is aware that there's an issue on the internet. I was all excited. I said, oh, we have a new massage place, you know. So I went and I entered the name on maps on my cell phone, and it came up with a 750 Sycamore Avenue address with a website that was developed in 2016. So then I went and entered the Oriental, let's see.
Natural.
Yeah, I have to go backwards. So the 750 Sycamore said it was Oriental Natural Treatment. So they were connected. And then I did it with just the address, and then it came up with Oriental Massage Spa. So it was, but then the content of the websites were exactly the same, and the web page for the one that said Oriental Massage Spa, which was located at 1976 Hacienda, the website was developed in 2018. So today I did a drive-by, took a picture, so I see that 1976 says Oriental Natural Treatment, but I'm guessing maybe there were two locations, since the websites have the exact same pricing, that you may want to get your web developer involved to have that old one taken off so it will be less confusing. But other than that, it looks beautiful, and I'm glad that you're there, and I'm glad I know that you're there. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Chow and Rafi.
All right. That closes discussion. Does someone like to make a motion? Commissioner Grimm.
If there's no other comment, I'll move staff recommendation.
Second. Commissioner Kramer seconds. So all in favor, raise your hand. And it's approved unanimously. So congratulations. So, sorry about that. No problem. Commissioners, you do have a copy of the what would have been the slide presentation for tonight, or the PowerPoint presentation on the dais for you. All right, our next item, public hearing, is for, again, a special use permit for the Apostolic Faith Church at 1010 South Santa Fe. Michael, your staff report, please.
Thank you, Chairman, members of the Planning Commission. The project before you tonight is the Faith Emmanuel Church, application numbers P16-0151. It's a request for a special use permit. The subject site is 1.24 acres. The site is located on the north side of South Santa Fe Avenue, just east of Santa Anita Drive. The site is one legal lot, and it currently maintains a two-story multi-tenant commercial building. The proposed project includes a special use permit request to establish a church on the subject site. The church hours of operation would be from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday through Saturday for church office hours, 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. Tuesday through Thursday for Bible study and evening activities, as well as 9:30 a.m. and 5:30 p.m. on Sundays for worship services. The floor plan, as well as the business plan, indicates that the sanctuary will be limited to a maximum of 70 members, and no exterior interior modifications are proposed as part of this application. And please note that there's two existing businesses on site that will continue to operate. In fact, if the church establishes operations on the subject site. The subject site consists of an existing 12,043 square foot two-story office building located at the rear of the site with parking directly in front of the building. Access to the site would be will continue to be provided by a 24-foot wide driveway from South Santa Fe Avenue. In regards to parking, the development code in the City of Vista requires 0.33 parking spaces for one fixed seat within a sanctuary for a church use. Based on that calculation, the site would be required to provide 24 parking spaces. The submitted site plan indicates 27 would be provided. Staff does note that the two existing businesses will operate in a manner not conflicting with the peak hours of the church use. In regards to the floor plan, the floor plan has been designed to accommodate a sanctuary with a maximum seating of 70 seats. Other church-related functions will take place in other areas on the first and second floor of the building. The proposed church use is consistent with the goals of the city's general plan. The church would be compatible with the surrounding commercial and residential uses along South Santa Fe Avenue. The church itself would provide services to the surrounding community. And in regards to parking, the site would provide adequate parking to accommodate the church operations. And with that, staff is recommending the Planning Commission adopt a resolution approving a special use permit to establish a church within an existing commercial building located at 1010 South Santa Fe Avenue. That concludes staff's report, and Pastor Romero is here to introduce himself and to answer any questions that the Planning Commission might have tonight. Thank you.
Commissioners, any questions of staff? You're going to have to raise your hand. Don?
Just for staff, on the 8.5 by 11 write-up, the applicant is Apostolic Faith Church, but on the handout, it's Faith Emmanuel Church. It might be good to have the same name unless it's under a different type of 501c3 or if it's underneath that, but to where we have the same name on the same documents.
Well, the pastor might be able to respond to that. From staff's perspective, we put this together rather quickly because of the situation that the pastor's been in the past 3 years. So everything was condensed down to like a 5 to 6 week period, which typically takes us to about 2 to 3 months. But yeah, potentially the pastor could probably answer a question on that. But you're correct; there should be consistency there.
That was my concern. Thank you.
Okay, I had a question about the statement that there was no changes to the building, and yet on the floor plan, it says there's 2 new doors to be added, one on each end. And is that not how is that regarded?
I mentioned before the meeting to another planning commissioner that these plans were developed 4 years ago for the building. Improvements have taken place over the years. What's reflected on the plans are what is there on site. And as of right now, based on this submittal, there isn't any interior improvements. Everything is as is on site. However, the conditions of approval for the building department indicate they'll be required to pull permits on anything that was unpermitted and because of the change in occupancy as well. So everything will be inspected and confirmed that any improvements that didn't receive permits will receive a permit, and the change of occupancy would trigger a permit as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Commissioner Garrettson?
Yes, just for clarification, on page 1 of 18, site and project description, it said the site takes access via a two-way driveway on East Vista Way. I'm assuming that should be South Santa Fe. 1, 2, 3, 4, third and fourth lines down.
That's correct.
I don't know if that matters, but we just want to make it accurate.
The resolution contains 1010 South Santa Fe address. So. All right, if there's no other questions of staff.
One more.
Oh, Commissioner Kramer.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Rossler, many years ago when it was a gym and I went there was a pool. Is the pool gone now?
Yeah, there's no pool inside the.
It was on the exterior. It was on, so when you come up the big driveway, you go left where all the parking is, but when you go straight where there's a few parking spaces, there was a pool.
No, it's actually gravel and unimproved parking area right now, so I wasn't aware there was a pool over there.
I'm old.
No. Okay.
Really old.
Yeah, this site has evolved over the years. And
Yeah.
I told him I played racquetball there when
I probably watched you. And then I appreciate that we're getting a church there. I personally love the location because of the view. It's a beautiful lot, and a lot can be done. And I know that it has been in dishevel for many, many years. So I didn't see anything here about landscaping, and I wondered if there is a plan, or because Mr. Romero's got his hands full taking over this wonderful building on top of this hill that hasn't been properly cared for, if we can even put gentle words in as a condition that Mr. Romero will work with staff to, like a plan to get some landscaping up to snuff to really improve things.
yeah, actually, staff went out to the site 4 o'clock last night, and they actually had somebody out there and starting to install new landscaping out front. They were doing irrigation work as well as planting new ground cover on the slope going up to the front of the building, planting the planters adjacent to the walkway going up to the front door of the building as well. I know Pastor Romero has some ideas in terms of improving the site. Financially, I know they're a bit constrained at this point. Staff didn't include conditions at this point. I prefer the pastor coming in and explaining his vision in terms of how long it would take to install the improvements and so forth. So it might be best for him to introduce himself and explain where he's at financially in terms of this project.
That would be wonderful. Thank you.
All right. We'll open the public hearing then and ask Pastor Romero to come and tell us about his church.
Thank you, Commissioner, and everybody that's here tonight. Michael, thank you for your help. I appreciate this time. I'm just going to give a brief summary. We purchased that building 4 years ago, and our mortgage is extremely high because it's taken me so long to move from our present location to where we're going. I probably lost a little over half of our congregation just because of anxiety and just the way things happen sometimes at church. And so it's created a hardship for us. And so we came in and ended up here tonight. Michael has been there yesterday. We have begun, we just took our own initiative and said, you know what, we're just going to start this thing by faith, and we did. And I will give you my word that in the next months, before a year maybe, it will look completely different, and it will be done right on the outside. And anything that we need to change on the inside, which we probably will do by phases, we will make sure that we are compliant with whatever we need to comply with. And if you could just consider our request to allow us to go in there, I would really appreciate it, and so would all of our congregation. I also want to apologize for the mistake on the name on the plan. Our architect, for some reason in his mind, it's always been Faith Emmanuel Church. And it really isn't even that. So if you want to make a correction for an official name, it is Apostolic Faith Church, DBA, La Casa de mi Padre, my father's house in Spanish, okay? And so that is our official registered name with the government. And so thank you for noticing that. I was going to try to get that squared away here tonight. And so I don't have anything else to say except that thank you, and there will come a day, the Lord willing, in the near future, that if we do get approved tonight, everybody that will drive past that building is going to know that it is a nice place to go, and we will not be ashamed of it. You will not be ashamed of our building there. We will make sure that it is the right thing to do.
Thank you. Any questions of Pastor Romero? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? I don't have any other speaker slips, so I will close the public hearing and open it up to discussion amongst the commissioners. Commissioner Grimm?
Just that I think that Commissioner Kramer hit on something that we need to take a look at. I think it's great that the city's going to help out, and we're not going to require some real onerous stuff, in the very beginning. I think there needs to be some kind of a plan, and that plan can be as flexible, as you want it to be. But if you go out to the site, you notice that there are a number of things that we would probably require on regular projects, such as the parking lot, the asphalt, those kinds of things. And those are very expensive, obviously. That's probably one of the most expensive things that you could incur. So I have no problem extending that time. I just think we need to have something just in case we're hoping things go very well for you and you can do it quickly, but something that at least we can check on and say you're making substantial progress or you're not making substantial progress. And I'm not quite sure if we want to probably not draft it, try to draft it from the dais, but just something that we could give a general condition to staff to, ensure that the parking lot is upgraded at some point.
So I guess the question is would that be something that they would work with staff and staff would administer, I guess, and then just come back to the Planning Commission and provide an update in the future? I don't think that's something you want us to continue to come back with and provide you, a status report. I'm not sure what your expectations were.
I don't think I'm speaking for the whole commission, but I don't need to see it again unless there's a problem with it. If things are going to staff satisfaction, that would be fine, at least from my perspective.
I talked to staff about when they come back. Right now, they're limited to 70 people when they're in their sanctuary. If they exceed that, they need to come back and see us. I talked to staff about the idea of them at that point, having a master plan about what they ultimately will do. I know North Coast and Grace Presbyterian both have plans that reflect more buildings that are on there than are on their site now. So same type of thing could be done, but I agree with you. Any other comments or questions of staff? Okay, we closed the public hearing, so we're open for a motion if someone would like to.
maybe before we move with the motion, we identified an improvement plan. What items would you like to include in that? You have a building, exterior paint, the parking lot, landscaping. Was there anything more than that, or what was your expectations, I guess, or what would the Planning Commission like to see in that plan?
Well, the things I saw are just the general condition of the landscaping, the parking lot in particular, and my only concern over time with the applicant coming back is that what if it stayed at 70 for 10 years? I think there needs to be at some point some kind of a trigger to make sure that, if things are going well, some of that stuff is completed.
Okay. Would someone like to make a motion then? Commissioner Kramer?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I make a motion to adopt Resolution 2019 as represented in the staff report, with the exception of asking staff to put something in the conditions of approval that provide for some landscaping and parking lot improvements over a period of time.
Okay.
And I think as the chairman said, maybe it could be hooked to when the congregation exceeds 70 occupants, except what if that does take 10 years? That wouldn't be good. Okay. Back off that one. So improvements with the landscaping and the parking lot with some kind of a plan within the next 2 years?
2 years, commissioners? Seems acceptable. Pastor Romero? Okay, 2 years? 2 years it is then.
Second. Yeah.
Okay, we have a motion. Second, Commissioner Garrettson. All right. It's been moved and seconded to approve the church at 1010 South Santa Fe with an additional condition for a 2-year improvement plan. All in favor, raise your hand, please. And it passes unanimously. So there we go. Congratulations. And our best wishes for your success. So. All right, that concludes our public hearings.
Student commissioners may want to say something.
Student commissioners, any comments or questions about what's going on tonight? Very good. All right, so our next item on the agenda, which I can't get back to, is reports and comments from commission members. Any commission members have a report or comment? And a report from Mr. Connolly.
A couple things to report out on. It looks like we will not have meetings in September. So the regular meeting that will be held on September 3rd and the 17th will not be held. It also looks like at this point October 1st would be the next meeting, and that will not. So you got a little time off. Hope you enjoy it. We'll report back to you as soon as we know when we're going to schedule the next meeting. The City Council did take action on the accessory dwelling unit changes that we brought before you a little while back. They made the changes to waive fees for affordable units, to increase the size of units to 1,200 square feet, assuming all other setbacks and requirements are met, and to update the parking requirements in accordance with state law. So those will all become effective in September. Couple things that are coming to council that are probably worth reporting out on. Next Tuesday night, there is a request for a general plan amendment and zone change at the corner of East Vista Way and Hillside Terrace, which is the Chin's property right just up the road here. They're requesting to change the zoning to a commercial designation to allow for a convenience store and gas station to be built there. This is a preliminary review by council to consider accepting the application. So we'll be discussing that one on Tuesday. On the 10th of September, we have another request for a general plan amendment and zone change on Vista Grande to allow for change from 1 acre to half acre for a single residential property at 2237. And we also have a discussion item on the detention basin on the Monarch project site. As you know, when we approved that project, it included a flood detention basin. During the excavation work there, we uncovered some significant cultural resources. It caused the developer to walk away from completing the basin. The city has taken it over as a capital project. We have to come back to council and discuss what we found and whether or not what it's going to cost us to complete the cultural resource recovery effort, and whether or not they want to continue with the project or abandon it and consider other uses for the site. So I'll report back to the commission after we get some direction from the council on that item. On the 24th of September, we have a discussion item on the Main Street Plaza, which is the little gazebo area there at Main Street in Indiana, and we'll get some direction from council. I believe alternative C, which was the grass turf area in the middle with a small stage and some seating, was what was directed, and so staff will be bringing back a cost estimate and discussing that and hopefully adding that to our capital project. With respect to development activity, the Sprouts project is still scheduled to open in mid-October. They're putting the signal in. I'm sure you've seen all the activity out there. We are working hard with them to make that October opening date happen. If it does not happen, then Sprouts will delay their opening until after the first of the year because they do not open during the holiday season. So we're working hard to make that happen. We've issued a grading permit for the project at the corner of Sycamore and Watson, the 56 single-family home residential development there that Meritage Homes is developing, and so you'll see some activity out there very soon. We've issued a building permit for the affordable project on Civic Center Drive next to the Union Bank, so you'll see that building coming out of the ground. And lastly, we have the EIR for the Sunroad development that Ms. Chow is working on, which is the drive-through project that's across the street from the Food for Less Center at the intersection of Hacienda and the freeway interchange there. They're proposing 4 drive-throughs and a car wash, and the EIR should be out sometime in September. So I'll make sure I send notice out to the commissioners to make that available to you when that's ready. Lastly, Paseo Santa Fe, just a brief update. We're still on schedule to finish the second phase of that project in the springtime. There was, unfortunately, a fairly negative article about the project in the San Diego Reader that came out today, so I hope you take that with a grain of salt. We're still working hard to make that happen, but the business owners are not all that happy about it. We will be going to council to discuss Phase 3, hopefully later in September or October, but it looks like we have funding to complete Phase 3, so we're hopefully going to be able to roll right in and finish the construction of that by the end of next year. That's our anticipated date. So that's all my updates, unless you have any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Monarch, is that Delphi's Corner?
No, Monarch is the project behind the 99-cent store. It's 179 apartments that's on the old mobile home park site.
Got it. Thank you very much, Mr. Connolly.
Any other questions? All right.
Thank you, Mr. Connolly.
Thank you.
Any other questions of staff? All right. If not, then we will stand adjourned into hopefully October 1st for our next meeting. So thank you very much. And how do we do? 6:30.
Nice job, Rick.
Not bad.